This is the book of Psalms, chapter 137, beginning at verse 7, and it reads, Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. Verse 8, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Verse 9, Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahak HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone who rule well and teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashah Barazal from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. All right, so this passage of scriptures, let me go ahead and grab that. And right here so it can be on the screen for you. 137, beginning at verse 7. All right. It says, remember, O Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, the children of Edom. And who are the children of Edom? The descendants of the so-called white man, Esau Edom, who was the progenitor of the Edomites. Okay? It says, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof, meaning to destroy it, burn it down, get rid of it. All right? And that's what happened. When the Chaldees took us into captivity, it was the Edomites who burned down our temple. All right, let me grab that. First Esdras 4 and 45. Get straight to the point. It says, thou also hast vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. So yeah, they burned down our stuff, our temple, which is sacred, and they have to pay for that. All right, back to Psalms 137, verse 8, and it says, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. All right, when you read this, it says, O daughter of Babylon. All right, so this is a future prophecy. It says, who art to be destroyed. Okay, this is talking about the future, and we know modern day America is Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon. Okay, it's called many other names too. All right, spiritual Sodom and Egypt, spiritual Assyria. All right, all the wicked places in history. They have taken on all the characteristics of it, but mainly Babylon. Which you go into that the meaning of that word, it means confusion. All right. That's exactly what it is. They call America the great melting pot. All right. All these different nations come all together and try to be one. Well, you lose your whole purpose, your meaning. You lose your customs, especially Jake. We're never supposed to be integrated with these devils, or any other heathen for that matter. What did the Lord say? Deuteronomy 7 and 6. He says, for thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy power. And holy means sanctified, separate. Okay? He says, Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So if he made us to be above all people on the face of the earth, we trying to mesh with everybody else, that means we have to come low. All right? And because we envy the way of the heathen, we did come low. Now look at us, in this captivity to this very day. for going against the law, statutes, and commandments. No other nation had those. Okay? Only the nation. The Lord chose us. All right? And he told us that. You go on to 2nd Ezra 5. Esdras in the Apocrypha. Esdras in the Apocrypha is the same as Ezra in the Old Testament. All right? And in this passage, he's talking about of all the things he's created on the earth, he had a favorite of all of them. And here it is with the people. All right? He says, and among all the multitudes of people, thou hast gotten thee one people. Okay? One people of all the multitudes. Okay? He took one out of the 18 nations that's on this earth. Okay? And that nation is the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes. Okay? He says, and among all the multitudes of people, thou hast gotten thee one people. And unto this people whom thou lovest, thou gavest a law that is approved of all. Okay? Who was given a law? Nation of Israel. Psalms 147. Verses 19 and 20. Verse 19, and it reads, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right? So let's make that clear. Back to the Psalms 137. All right? So like I said, this is talking about a future prophecy. All right? And verses 8 and 9 talks about that righteous recompense that is going to come upon Edom. All right? The so-called white people. All right? They're actually red. Okay? No one is actually white. That was a social construct. Okay? Calling us a black Negro. Okay? And calling themselves white. When you go into the etymology of the word white, it means without moral impurity, perfect, and they can be the furthest from that. That's a very defiled nation, the base nation, according to Job 30 and 8. All right, unfit to rule this earth, as everyone can see right now. But yeah, it's talking about a righteous recompense for what they did to us. All right, this is Amos chapter 1 and verse 11. It says, thus saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. Okay? Esau has never had any mercy on us. Relentless. Through physical violence, political violence, messing with the food, water, air, policies. And you got these, as of recently, these data centers going up in Jake neighborhoods. All right? Just relentless. No mercy on Jake. But he's going to have to pay for that. He really is. And that's been, since the beginning. But, hey, Jake has to know, like I said, you coming up on this wicked holiday, the 4th of July. Okay? Jake is celebrating that shit and don't realize where we were in history. All right? And what it meant. All right, you have to go in and start understanding where you are. The scriptures say we are in captivity to this day. All right, this is the book of Baruch, who was a scribe for the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 8. And it reads, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us, for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from Yahweh our power. Okay? So we're in this captivity right now because of our transgression against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. We're in that right now. Okay? And these Edomites enjoyed it. Like I said, you got to know what you're part of. Okay? This place is not our rest. Okay? And they meant that when they wrote the Constitution. You know, go read the preamble. Well, I'll get it. And I can show you through the scriptures that, you know, it's no joke. All right? It says, okay. We, the people of the United States, in order to perform a more perfect union, this is the preamble, okay, to the Constitution. In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. All right? So these are the 6 goals. Okay? But the one where Jake finds out who this is really talking to is number 6. Secure the blessings of liberty. It means to protect fundamental human rights and freedoms for both current and future generations. But it says posterity right there. Posterity. Does Jake know what that means? Most likely don't, because you're still trying to be part of this place. Let me get that. Posterity. In the, I had it in the, okay, here it is in the Edom Online. It says, a person's offspring, descendants collectively. Okay? Future time, after generation, offspring, the coming after. So it says to ourselves and our posterity. That's possessive. That didn't include you, Jake. They were talking about so-called white people when they did that. All right? And Thomas Jefferson kind of doubled down on it in his notes to Virginia when it came to slavery. All right? Let's get that. Okay. His quote, what did he say? He says that famous and haunting line is from, oh, here we go. I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just. All right? And that's quoted often. And here's why. It says that famous and haunting line is from Thomas Jefferson's notes on the state of Virginia in 1782. He wrote it as a condemnation of slavery, deeply fearing that a just God would eventually hold America accountable for the oppression and brutality of the institution. And he's damn right. He was damn right. But see, just to go to show you, you know, this dude still had slaves as he was saying this. But notice, he said, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just. He didn't say my God, because he wasn't convicted about having slaves. Let me go to the actual, the full quote. All right. And it reads, he says, this is so true that of the proprietors of slaves, a very small proportion indeed are ever seen to labor. Okay. And can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are a gift of God? So he knew, all right, that they are not to be violated, but with his wrath. Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever. All right. So yeah, eventually there's going to be a recompense, and we're starting to see that right now. All right. The curses are starting to lift off of Jake and move over to our enemies. This is Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. And it reads, "And Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." Who persecuted us the most? And still is to this day. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, beginning with the head tribe of Amalek. You know, who are your people over in our land, destroying everyone around them, or trying to. Okay, they've been kicked out of 109 countries and impersonating us. You know, the scriptures say in Proverbs 29 and 2, says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." That right there is more than enough if you have, the eyes to see it. We're the true people. Okay, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and those scattered abroad that are of the seed line of Jacob. Okay, these people are wicked. You've been kicked out of 109 countries, 109 nations. There's only 194, 195 nations on this planet. And you've been kicked out of a good number of them. All right? But the people are mourning right now. Like the scriptures say, he said the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And the head tribe of the wicked, Esau, Edom, is Amalek. Okay? You see who has control over everything. You see who you can't talk about without being censored or fired or lose your job, ostracized from society. I mean, we got to keep it real. We know exactly who we're dealing with. These are the people that the Lord said he would have war with from generation to generation. And we are. Not only did they finance the transatlantic slave trade, they own the ships and the insurance company. All right? It was them. And we know it was them. And Jake, so, stupid, they control both sides of everything, both sides of the wars. Okay? Come to find out they're running all these organizations, Black Lives Matter, NAACP, and then you had one of them, the Nation of People that are against organizations such as that, Judah P. Benjamin was a Confederate, Amalekite, small hat, thimble cap, if you want to call him that. Okay? He was a major player in the start of the Ku Klux Klan. So these people on both sides, making sure they have control of everything. But yeah, the Lord said he's going to have war with them. But they're going to come to an end. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, verse 17. All right, we're talking about a righteous recompense. It says, "Remember what Amalek, who is the direct son of Esau, Edom." You get that in Genesis 36. Esau's son Eliphaz married that concubine Timnah, and then out of that came Amalek. All right. He says, "Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, when ye were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee, killed them. It says, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You know, he had no problem putting his hands on the apple of the Lord's eye as we were leaving Egypt, you know, on our way to the promised land. All right. And even, you know, that was Amalek. And even on our way there, you know, the rest of the nation of Edom didn't want us to pass by, wouldn't let us pass by. All right. So they've always been giving us hell throughout history. All right. It says, verse 19, therefore it shall be, when Yahweh thy power have given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, and the land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it. So while they're telling us not to forget that very questionable situation that happened between 1933 and 1945, the Lord is telling us not to forget. All right? But you got a lot of Jake who don't know who they are, giving support to these people, you know, mocking the prophets, telling us we don't know what we're talking about, when all evidence points against them. All right? So Amalek is going to have to pay. All right? This is Numbers 24 and 20, how we know he's running everything. Numbers 24 and 20. And it reads, and when he looked upon Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nation. That's the chief nation. Okay? The first of the nations. And we know that. Look, they own, control everything. As powerful as the United States is, you know, they took over all of the people in Congress, you know, funding their campaigns, you know. Government is so, and here you are in the process of emerging militaries. Yeah, they got America by the nuts, you know. Straight up. Like, what was his name in Next Friday? The character Cat Williams played had Damon by the nuts with those vice grips. Yeah, that's how they have the American government right now. All right, and we know with them merging like that, that's so they can come down with great wrath on Jake. You know, we already know what that is. Because the thing is, if we're still around, they don't get the birthright. So they're going to come down with great wrath, just like the scriptures say. All right? But it goes on to say, it says, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. These are the words of the Lord. And we know, according to Psalms 53, you know, the wicked, you know, don't fear the Most High. But he's going to show them better than he can tell them. You know, that's the thing. And we don't want you to fear him. That way, that victory in the end is going to be that much sweeter. All right? You will pay. You will pay. And it's going to be hefty, too. All right? So that righteous recompense, you know, and go back. Like I said, you know, we look forward to the day when the Lord give us the green light to dash your little ones against the stones. You know, your head gonna be mashed in just like that. Mashed in just like that. Heck, you know, you made our children alligator bait. You know, pulled them out of the womb, stomped on the head. Yeah. Yeah. Cut babies out of the womb. Mm-hmm. Killed them, skinned them, ate them. Now we won't be doing that in the kingdom, but hey, dashing them against the stones. Uh-huh. And that's that goes back to that posterity. Getting back to that seed line. You know, the Lord said He's going to deal with your seed line to get rid of you, just like you try to get rid of us. All right. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 109. Beginning at verse 13. All right. And this is talking about the wicked. If you start at the top in context, I'm just going straight to the point. Okay. He says, let his posterity, there it is, there's that word again, be cut off. All right. And that's the progenitor of the nation to the furthest descendant of that said generation. All right. It says, let his posterity be cut off, and in the generation following, let their name be blotted out. Here again, you're going to be deleted. That righteous recompense. You're trying to get rid of us, and it's actually you that's going to be gotten rid of. All right. After you serve your slavery and punishment twice as long and twice as hard as we did. All right. He said, let their name be blotted out, just like Amalek. And by him being the head nation, the old saying is, wherever the head goes, the body follows. All right. It says, verse 14, let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered with the Lord, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. Yeah. You Edomite women got a lot to pay for too. You had the Casual Killing Act, which right now we believe is the basis for impunity for law enforcement. Yeah, Casual Killing Act. I believe it was 1661. Mm-hmm. Whereas, if you murdered a child through the course of correction, you couldn't be charged with that crime. Yeah. Okay. We'll see how that works. Mm-hmm. It says, let her name not. Let me get that again. Let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. So yeah, you got to pay for that, as well as your men. All right. Verse 15. It says, let them be before Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai continually, that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. Yep. We're getting real close to that time, Esau, where, you're going to hear it sucks to be you every day. Every single day. That's right. It sucks to be you. Because you just had a good old time, destroying Jake. A good time. Now it's time to pay up. All right, and you will. Mm-hmm. Yep. Time to pay up. Time to pay up. And you will be destroyed, just like the end of that, Scripture said. Let me get that back in. Psalms 137. And verse 8. It says, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast rewarded us. So yeah, we're going to reward you the same way. A brutal but righteous captivity. All right. Happy shall he be that taketh and dashes thy little ones against the stones. Yep. Yep. You'll have a lot of heads looking like that in the kingdom as soon as they be born, because the whole goal, as you're going through that process of slavery, your seed line is going to diminish and disappear until it exists no more. All right. You must pay for what you did. All right. This is go back to that Psalms 109. And verse 16. He says, because that he remembered not to show mercy, but persecuted the poor and needy man, those are the Israelites, that he might even slay the brokenhearted. And that's what he was doing, you know, just killing us, because he was mad about that birthright that he sold. All right, back in Genesis 25, towards the end. All right, he didn't get it. He didn't get it, and yeah, you got to pay for what you did to the nation of Israel, and they're going to be the ones to inflict it. All right, what do you say, by the hand of my people? All right, that's Ezekiel 25, beginning at verse 12. All right. It says, thus saith Yahweh our power, because that Edom hath dealt with the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Hear that? It says, therefore, thus saith Yahweh our power, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, and I will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. Verse 14 says, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. See, remember he said Judah just before that. Now he's saying Israel. Okay? Which means, you know, we're going to be in the kingdom when this happens. Okay? That's when the two nations could come together. We're coming together now in terms of the camp, but being one nation again as the kingdom of Israel, you know, when the Lord come back and save us. All right, from this devil. Let me start back in 14. It says, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith Yahweh our power. All right, you're gonna know the power of the Lord. You know, you're gonna know the power of the Lord in that day. That's for real, Esau. So yeah, you got a righteous recompense coming for all the blood that you shed. All right, this is the book of Joel. Chapter 3, starting at verse 19. And it says, Egypt shall be a desolation. That's the house of bondage, talking about America. And Edom shall be a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. All right. Verse 20, it says, but Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. Okay, when you read that, that's talking about us being in our new bodies. Because dwelling forever and from generation to generation, that's immortality. No ifs, ands, buts about it. That's immortality. And that's what we strive for right now. All right, trying to get our spot on that chariot when Yahweh Shah comes back. All right, it says, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai dwelleth in Zion. Say he's on cleanse the blood. All right, and how's he going to do that? This is the book of Numbers 35 and 33, and it reads, So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. That's that righteous recompense. You know, you did it. The whole world's got proof you did it, and you got to pay for it, Esau. You got to straight pay for it, for what you did to the children of Israel. All right? And you're going to, when you go into captivity. All right? Then after captivity, you know, you're going to be destroyed. Never to return again. All right? This is Revelation. Chapter 13, beginning in verse 9. All right? It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. If any man have understanding, let him understand. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Okay, we're in captivity right now. And he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. That was your blessing, Esau, that sword. Genesis 27, 38 through 41. That was your blessing. All right? Now it's in our hands. Okay? He says, here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Okay? Well, it will be in our hands. You know, when we got those new bodies in that spiritual in our immortality, you know, with the law, statutes, and commandments on our inward parts. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay. All right. So there's a captivity there, and here's where you go away for good, forever, never to return again. You know, I can say right now, it sucks to be you, Esau, but we're happy about it. All right. This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1 and verse 18. And it reads, and the house of Jacob, that's the southern kingdom, shall be a fire. And the house of Joseph, that's the northern kingdom, okay? And the house of Esau, our number one enemy, the so-called white man, okay? For stubble, all right? And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai have spoken it. Okay? You're going to be recompensed for your evil. You know, as a nation, your forefathers, it doesn't matter. You know? Don't care if you were there or not. You're going to have to pay for the sins of your fathers. All right? This is it Jeremiah 32 and 19? Jeremiah 32, 19. Actually 18. All right. I'll start at 17. It says, Yahweh, our power, behold, thou hast made the heaven and the earth by thy great power, and stretched out thine arm, and there is nothing too hard for thee. Verse 18, thou showest loving kindness unto thousands, and recompenses the iniquity of the fathers into the bosom of their children after them. That's posterity. For great, Slakia, the great, the mighty God and Lord of hosts is his name. All right, there it is. It says it right there. Recompenses the iniquity of the fathers into the bosom of the children. All right, Isaiah 14:22. And I'll close with this one. Again in verse 21. Very clear. It says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the place of the world with cities. Okay? Prepare slaughter for his children. All right? He's making sure that you don't come into rulership again, that you don't have any, offspring that qualifies for rulership. All right. Verse 22, it says, "For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name," okay, which is Edom, all right, "the remnant, and the son and nephew." That's the entire seed line. Okay, the Lord's going to cut it off. All right, cut it clean off. And it finishes off by saying, "Saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai." All right, so with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, they're going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rahah Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, Abba Baba. Shalom, we got next.